A couple of weeks back, we released a video called "Why Did the Finals Lose So Many Players?" It seemed to strike a chord. Everyone had their own opinions to share on the answer to that particular question. Some comments suggested it was the lack of maps or visual identity which drove player counts downwards. There were also those who felt certain classes possessed frustratingly imbalanced abilities, or that certain techniques were too oppressive to contend with, especially when they appeared so consistently match after match. A lot of former players seem to blame hackers as their #1 reason for leaving the finals behind, too. Now, naturally, I can't speak to everyone's personal experiences. I'm just one dude, and like I mentioned at the beginning of that last video, I kind of suck at this game. Most of the time, anyway. Sometimes I do kick a little ass, though, like this. Take that, who doth sucketh now? Right, but in Why Did the Finals Lose So Many Players, we asserted that the reasons for this game's notable player base drop-off might be due to a more complex series of issues, with multiple layers behind the actual answer. So, did my predictions in that former video hold up? Or have they become as retro as Season 2's theming? Is Embark Studios keeping the course for this title, even when the going gets tough? And, of course, does Season 2 save the finals? Let's find out. In my opinion, one of the most abundantly clear reasons for the finals' bleeding player base comes down to the fact that there's just so many good games to play right now. Yet, in spite of that, I still find myself signing on for a near nightly tournament, if only to see if our team can muster what it takes in order to arrive at that titular final round, beating the odds, overcoming our foes, and taking the win. So, how can the finals compete with the shiny and new? Well, brand new content always helps, right? Season 2 has arrived, bringing along a new map, new weapons, new gadgets, and cosmetics, the whole package, really. And now that I've had some time to digest it all, experiencing all the highs and lows that the finals has to offer anew, I feel confident that I can start to answer some of those aforementioned questions. So far as pure content is concerned, Season 2 delivers in a pretty big way. We've got new weapons for every class, though I inevitably found myself returning to Old Reliable, the classic 6-shooter. Because how else would you be able to appreciate these kinds of skills otherwise, Fine, okay, but the new guns are pretty cool too. They feel like a nice addition for every class, with lights having more close-up options, mediums getting a boost at the mid-range, and heavies exploding more things, mostly. But I'll get back to that in detail in just a moment, because it's best I get the worst of the new content out of the way, and that means I have to talk about the new map. With the finals boasting a rather limited map selection, this new space to fight over and dynamically destroy will likely make for most people's first real impression of this new content. A lot of people seem to want more cool options on this front, and that makes it all the sadder that it's pretty alright, I guess. I actually like the color palette quite a bit, but the overall layout feels way too similar to the other maps, with samey multi-layered office buildings taking up the brunt of the objective locations. Don't get me wrong, there's some cool details hidden around, and it feels well designed on the balance side of things. But I feel like we could have gone a little wackier than this. Isn't the finals like a game within a game or something? With Season 2's retro games theming, why not go all out with something a little less grounded and a little more whimsical? For example, the floating platforms used in other maps could have been used to great effect here, especially if they were reskinned to appear like, I don't know, vaguely familiar brick blocks with big yellow question marks on the side. Unfortunately, the map doesn't seem to include any new mechanics at all, which is odd because one of the new gadgets on offer in Season 2 is actually a portal device. It feels like placing a few portals about would have been an obvious way to shake things up, but then again, Embark might have been prioritizing a sense of balance above ingenuity. I understand that it's a bit of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation on their end. And I don't want to come across as overly critical, but I would have preferred to see some real risks being taken on this design front. Stuff which would clearly indicate a more ambitious and creative future for the finals. So, after playing enough rounds to really get a feel for it, I find that the new map trends more towards the uninspired with a fresh coat of paint, rather than something really fresh and exciting. However, while that is rather disappointing in my opinion, the map might be the weakest single offering Season 2 makes, which means the rest is pretty standout. Like I said, the new guns are pretty fun. A burst fire pistol for the light class, a burst fire rifle for the medium class, and a heavy slug shotgun for the heavies. All of these archetypes feel like logical additions to the game's current selection. I had a fun time making use of that new shotgun in particular. The slow-ass, high-caliber projectile weaponry has always been my jam, and this is no exception. It's satisfying to get kills with, and fun as hell to break down walls using your gun, too. Then there's the new gadgets and abilities. A two-way portal device for lights, a dematerializer for mediums, as well as a matter deconstructor, and an anti-grab throwable for heavies. Here, we do see some real creativity on display. Much like the new weapons, these are nice additions to the roster, introducing new gameplay elements that really allow you to shake up your strategies. While it's true that ultimately I'm unlikely to choose the matter reconstructor over a mine or frag grenades, I am grateful to see that the devs over at Embark embrace the wacky with these new gadgets in order to introduce some new and exciting tactics to the game. Finally, there's the Battle Pass. Honestly, not a bad deal at all. There's some great cosmetics on offer here, and making that investment was an easy choice given I had enough premium currency stored by completing Season 1's Battle Pass. And of course, the game is totally free to play, so if you don't like it, don't buy it. No arguing with those terms, really. So one of the biggest reasons for departing the finals that commenters mentioned was a perceived lack of balance. Whether it was full teams of invisible lights sprinting around like sugar-addled toddlers, F-cars beaming you from across the map, or the dreaded nuke, certain tactics definitely drew more ire than others. If there's one angle of this game that Embark has consistently delivered on, it's their balancing updates. There are weekly changes to the meta, and guns are tuned in ways both noticeable and subtle all the time. Over the past few weeks, nukes have practically become a thing of the past, the F-car has been provided a little more kick, and teams of invisible lights are still pretty much everywhere, but you know, switch up your tactics, right? Well, that was a large part of what we went over in that last video as well. New players aren't going to switch up their tactics because they haven't developed any, and naturally, they straight up have less to choose from. While the balance of the moment-to-moment gameplay feels better than ever in my opinion, the on-ramp to becoming decent at this game is still a steep one. Season 2 definitely doesn't fix that. Actually, with the addition of gadgets like the dematerializer, which can make for some rather tricky high-skill plays concerning the objective, there are even more ways for newcomers to the finals to find themselves potentially confused or frustrated. Again, it's quite the conundrum. One where I don't know if there's a right answer to be found. Everyone wants their live service game to grow, with the ambitions to deliver new content regularly, but in a game like the finals, too many options might actually hinder more than help, in some ways at least. Then there's the team play element. In the finals, you're going to have a rough time without a decent squad backing you up. There's no reason you can't come across some halfway competent random and run away with things, absolutely. But it's far more likely that you're going to find yourself up against organized trios, and they are a force to be reckoned with. Not insurmountable, but difficult, and especially so for any given casual newcomer to the game. Embark Studios' answer to this issue appears to be an offering of quick play playlists, which are usually only available for a limited time. In Season 1, we had 12-player free-for-alls. In Season 2, we have a tug-of-war style game mode, and honestly, I'm not a fan. I don't know why I always spawn on the same side of the map, I don't know why I always lose, probably because I'm garbage, okay, I get it. All in all, I didn't get much out of this, but you know what? That's alright, I still appreciate its existence. It's cool that Embark makes these playlists, and it's extra cool that you can earn free cosmetics by completing challenges in them, but nope, not for me, thank you. I've learned my lessons a few times over by now. Finally, a ton of comments made mention of hackers. Actually, that might be the most common reason we saw for people claiming to leave the game behind. The thing is, I don't think I've ever seen a hacker in the finals. Now, this is more than likely because I'm not good enough to be placed up against the quote-unquote best of the best, as we've well established already. I have seen a few players end up kicked out of lobbies, so maybe it is a more common issue than I've personally witnessed. But practically every game I've played in Season 2 has felt fair, with no suspicious activity to make note of. Maybe in the very upper echelons of the finals ranks, hacking is still very much so a big problem. But I think for the average player, this isn't readily a concern, and definitely isn't a reason to disregard the finals entirely if you find yourself interested in the game. At the conclusion of why did the finals lose so many players, I made a prediction. It seemed all too likely that the finals would establish a smaller, more dedicated fan base, as compared to the likes of other titles such as Fortnite or Apex Legends at least. There would be those who committed to learning this game's tricks, refining their techniques, and sticking around even when they just know 3 invisible lights are waiting around the corner to wreck their day. These players, likely with dedicated teams at their sides, continue to enjoy the finals for everything it is, the good and the bad. It would appear my predictions are likely in the right, with the finals experiencing a moderate bump in player count with Season 2's release, but a couple new guns and gadgets seemingly won't be enough. Now player numbers have dwindled to their lowest ever, with a daily peak of about 20,000 logins on Steam and an unknown amount of players on console. Clearly, Season 2 did not prove to be the explosive rise Embark might have been seeking, yet nobody can doubt their dedication, with continuous balancing updates, limited time events, and developer insight streams on the regular. All of these things indicate confidence in their ongoing efforts, and I don't see any intentions of leaving the finals behind anytime soon on their part. So, in spite of my newfound incredible powers to read the obvious future, the finals continues to carve its own path. Does Season 2 and all its new content save this game? Well, clearly no, but perhaps, in some ways, it's not really in need of saving. Instead, what it needs to do is dig deep and find the answers to some really difficult questions. How can you continue to expand this game without making it so complex that new players can't get a grip? How can you push the limits of map design without abandoning balance? How can you keep the revolver the same and never ever touch it again? Alright, that might be a bit of a personal request, but I mean, come on! We'll see if they come up with some worthy solutions in the near future. For the time being, that's all from me on the finals. Maybe Season 3 will bring some new ideas to the table. If you appreciated my thoughts or enjoyed our stuff, be sure to hit that like button and leave a comment below. Bongo on that bell for more Freakopolis content, and as always, thank you for watching.